Ladies and gentlemen, get ready for the continuation of G.I. Joe versus the Transformers. We're going to be covering the second series, so if you haven't seen my videos on the first one, link will be in a pinned comment below. At the end of the last series, we saw Cobra was defeated and their forces were scattered worldwide. However, Cobra Commander, aided by Starscream, escaped capture and the two seemed to begin a partnership. Meanwhile, the surviving Transformers returned to Cybertron, but before they left, the Autobots shared their technology with the Joes, and we saw that the government secretly aimed to revive the deceased Decepticons for their own use. Now, this series takes place 2 years after the fall of Cobra. 18 months ago, the Joes heard Cobra has reformed and that Cybertronian technology is being sold on the black market. 7 months ago, they also received intel of an international weapons ring connected to the biker gang Dreadnoks, who are connected to Cobra. For those of you who don't know who the Dreadnoks are, they're a group of mercenaries consisting of psychopaths, vandals, and thieves led by the Master of Disguise, Zartan. The story really begins here with the Joes, Scarlet, Stalker, and Beachhead raiding the Dreadnoks warehouse. Now, Beachhead is new to us in this story. His real name is Wayne R. Sneeden, an Army Ranger who's an all-around tough guy. I like to think of him as the solid snake of the Joe team. The Joes come face to face with the Dreadnoks. Now, these are the original members of the group: Ripper, Buzzer, and Torch. Each of them reveals their new cybernetic limbs that coincide with their names. But honestly, this upgrade doesn't do much for them, because they get taken out quickly. These guys driving a truck try to escape, but standing in their way is who I initially thought was Quick Kick, but I was wrong. This is Charlie Ironknife, aka Spirit, the Joe's Native American mystic warrior and tracker. He leaps and drop kicks through the truck's windshield, stopping it in its tracks. This was absolutely badass. At that moment, an armored vehicle that looks like Christian Bale's Bat-Tank comes bursting out of the back and starts laying down firepower on the Joes. However, the Joes have also upgraded themselves with Cybertronian technology. They protect themselves using an invisible shield. Bazooka takes out the armored vehicle's wheels. The driver comes popping out of the vehicle mounting a cannon, but Snake Eyes in his mech suit quickly takes it out. Now, I couldn't figure out who was in the red mech suit. I was thinking maybe it's Lady J, but let me know in the comments below if you know who it is. The next day in Portugal, Cobra Commander arrives at Destro's estate, where he is currently hiding out. Cobra Commander gets right to the point as to why he's come to see him. He informs Destro that his sources have learned about a science lab in Boston that has opened a wormhole between Earth and Cybertron. He explains that the wormhole is controlled by Cybertron's supercomputer, Teletran 3. It's the center of the network of wormholes crisscrossing Cybertron. What Cobra Commander asks of Destro is for him to fund the expedition. He reveals that part of his plan is to go to Cybertron and use Starscream to gain control of Teletran 3. He shows Destro that Starscream is subservient to him. It's weird that this is the case, since the last time we saw them, they were reluctant partners, but now Cobra Commander has this unexplained dominance over Starscream. Cobra Commander also reveals that once he takes control of Teletran 3, he plans on creating a wormhole network on Earth, where he can have his troops appear, strike, and vanish wherever and whenever he wants. Now, Cobra Commander, knowing how Destro's mind operates, tells him this network can also be used as an instantaneous delivery system for his arm shipments. This convinces Destro to fund the expedition under the condition that he has his own team join the expedition and that Cobra Commander be there every step of the way, cause he doesn't trust him. He orders his butler to close down the estate as he and Cobra Commander discuss logistics. This butler leaves the house and dives off the estate cliff and into the ocean. The butler is revealed to be the Joe's undercover agent, Chuckles in disguise. Now, Chuckles is kind of like the Joe's own Master of Disguise / undercover agent. He informs Joe headquarters of Cobra's plans. From here, we go to the Transformers. On Cybertron, the Great War between the Autobots and Decepticons still continues despite Megatron's death. What happened was, while the Autobots and Decepticons were battling on Earth, Shockwave conquered Cybertron. So the Autobots have been fighting to survive ever since they returned home. They've been using guerrilla tactics on Shockwave's forces. The Autobots successfully steal this shipment of Energon and escape. Shockwave has so much power over Cybertron that he isn't even fazed when one of his soldiers tells him that Optimus and his Autobots escape. Shockwave says Optimus and his resistance are nothing but an annoyance. I love that Shockwave has risen to power and is the big bad. Back on Earth, the Joes storm the science lab in Boston, interrupting Cobra's plan. Cobra Commander orders his troops to fire at the Joes, and a firefight ensues. This ends up being a bad idea. Dr. Mindbender panics, yelling at everyone not to fire at the wormhole gate, but it's too late. The computer malfunctions, and both the Joes and Cobra are immediately transported to Cybertron. Once they arrive, Cobra Commander orders Starscream to take Teletran 3, but Dr. Mindbender informs him that it's destabilizing again. Another energy surge occurs, and this time it spreads across all of Cybertron, zapping various Cybertronians away. Once it's all over, Shockwave enters, ordering his troops to wipe out Cobra and the Joes. Suddenly though, Ultra Magnus and Perceptor come crashing through the roof. Magnus activates a force field protecting both groups, and Perceptor secures Starscream. They explain to both groups that Teletran 3 has malfunctioned on an epic scale. Not only did it transport them to Cybertron, but also has sent many Cybertronians to Earth. And that's not even the worst part. Teletran has accidentally caused a crack in the time stream. It sent those Cybertronians to Earth's past and future. That if those Cybertronians aren't restored to the proper time and place, it will cause a feedback on Earth that will unleash a nuclear holocaust on the planet. Ultra Magnus makes it clear that Cobra and the Joes are the only ones standing between Earth and a fiery death. Especially since Ultra Magnus has to stay and hold the shield, which only has a 12-hour lifespan by the way, and Perceptor has to operate Teletran 3. Destro agrees both groups must work together and cause a truce, but only on the condition that each team has Cobra and Joe members. Perceptor explains that 4 groups of Cybertronians were sent away, so 4 teams need to be sent, and mentions that it won't be easy to find these Transformers since once they arrive in whatever time and place they end up in, they'll go through a camouflage protocol and scan a form and be locked into their vehicle mode. So basically they'll be unconscious and need to be awakened. He gives each team a tracking device and a disruption unit so they can track and reboot the system of each Transformer. What's even crazier here though, is that even if they accomplish all this in under 12 hours, they'll still have to deal with being surrounded by Shockwave and his army of Decepticons. The first team sent consists of Lady J, Zartan, Storm Shadow, and my boy, Snake Eyes. This is definitely an OP group here. They end up in the late 1970s. Luckily for them, they're able to quickly track down and find one of the missing Transformers, who turns out to be Jazz. He is this pimp's ride, which is pretty funny. The next bot they find and are able to track down at a junkyard is Bumblebee. The third target is owned by some guy. In order to lure him away from the public eye and get him somewhere more discreet, Lady J comes up with the idea of racing this guy and leading him to their final target. She's going for the kill 2 birds with 1 stone approach. She successfully leads the guy to their 4th target, who is in a warehouse full of cops in the middle of a bust. Lady J activates a disruption unit that awakens both targets, one revealing to be Hot Rod and the other Blitzwing. To all Hot Rod fans out there, sorry to say he won't be a big part of this story. Now before a fight breaks out or before the cops fire at them, Lady J warps them all the way back to their time. Now the second team, consisting of Roadblock, Baroness, Beachhead, and some random Cobra soldier, arrive at their time. Suddenly, they're nearly run down by some cars that are firing Tommy machine guns at each other. The team quickly figures out that they've ended up in 1930s Chicago. What's hilarious is the Cobra soldier named Percy is losing his mind here. He can handle giant robots, being instantaneously zapped to another planet, but time travel is just too crazy for him. Beachhead and Baroness have a debate on whether to use stealth or blend in by creating personas that fit with the time. They end up going with Beachhead's stealth approach and track down one of their targets, which is a red and blue truck. I wonder who that can be. Beachhead beats up these goons surrounding the truck. After interrogating one of the guys here, he finds out this truck, along with 5 other vehicles, was found by his boss, Tommy Fingers. He put the rest of the vehicles in his garage under his nightclub. They activate the truck here, which turns out to be, to no surprise, Optimus Prime. He got zapped away when he tried to save Jazz. The team explains the situation to Prime and then head to their next target. Meanwhile on Cybertron, the first team arrived safely back and Magnus secured Blitzwing. However, he reveals to the Joes the force field only has 6 hours left. Now in order to gain access to Tommy Fingers' garage, the second team goes with the Baroness's approach, which is to disguise themselves. The Baroness, using her looks, convinces Tommy Fingers to give her a tour. Roadblock gets himself into the band performing in the nightclub, disguising himself as a trumpeter named Miles Davis. This is something Roadblock would definitely do. Sometime later, the Baroness knocks out Tommy Fingers with a drug, and Roadblock takes out the goons guarding the garage. The Baroness informs the team that Tommy Fingers discovered 2 trucks and 4 cars. The second truck is filled with dynamite at the moment and is going to be used to blow open a bank soon. So they need to hurry and get that truck back before that Cybertronian is killed. If that happens, Earth is gone. Now they decide not to activate these 4 vehicles here because they don't want to risk waking any possible Decepticons. However, these vehicles are already awake and are revealed to be the Stunticons. And if you're not familiar with the Stunticons, they're Decepticons who are combiners who can combine together and form the mighty Metasaur. Now this is just 4 of the members here. That second truck the team is after is the Stunticons leader, Motormaster. Optimus and the second team make a run for it. Beachhead and Roadblock try their best to keep the Stunticons off of Prime. They're able to take out a bridge here thinking that will stop them, but that doesn't work. Once they reach the second truck, the Baroness fires at the truck, causing the dynamite in it to explode. Luckily though, Motormaster survives the explosion and the Baroness activates him. Now the Baroness gives a very solid reason as to why she fired at the truck. She says, "These are robots from another planet. I've seen them take missiles at point blank range. The little dynamite isn't going to hurt them." The team then transports back to the future. We then go to the third team, in another time and another place. This team consists of Barbecue, Spirit, Tomax and Zaymont, and Dr. Mindbender. They're all shocked at the sight that they've arrived at a post-apocalyptic future. You're not ready for this terrible future. I hope you all enjoyed the video. The ending of this video, my god, it's just going to be insane, crazy. You're not going to want to miss out on this, trust me. What's up everyone, James here, and today we are back with G.I. Joe versus the Transformers 2. If you haven't seen the first video, the link will be in a pinned comment below. So, returning where we last left off, with Team 3 arriving at their destination. Initially, Spirit doesn't believe that they're on Earth, but Dr. Mindbender assures him they are on Earth in what seems to be a post-apocalyptic future. What the team will eventually learn is this is precisely 20 years in the future where Shockwave has conquered Earth. It's wild. Now, the other 2 members in this team, new to us in this series, is first Barbecue. He is an adventurous former Boston firefighter who comes from a family of multi-generational firefighters. He joined the army and eventually became the Joes firefighter. Second, also new to us, are the identical twin brothers, Tomax and Zaymont. I'm counting them as one member. The only way you can tell the brothers apart is Zaymont has a scar on his face. But other than that, they're alike in every way. They both served in the French Foreign Legion, and afterward successfully transitioned to mercenaries for hire. In time, they joined Cobra, becoming their experts in law and finance, and commanders of Cobra Commander's Crimson Guard, basically Cobra's elite guard. Before Team 3 can explore this bleak future, they're immediately discovered and attacked by the Decepticons sweeps. One thing I want to point out here that honestly kind of sucks is at the end of the last video, which is the end of the second issue in this series, they teased that there would be skyscraper-sized bots in the next issue. And even the cover of the following issue, it teased that a massive bot would appear. Now, this massive, awesome-looking bot wasn't dubbed a name until 2015 in the Facebook blog Ask Vector Prime, where they named him Ragnarok, a powerful Decepticon made out of bombs and lasers and is able to make copies of himself. If that's not OP, I don't know what is. but he's become one of my favorite Decepticons. That's why we saw multiple skyscraper-sized bots in the end of the last video. Now, why he wasn't utilized, I couldn't find out, but maybe either Dreamwave or Devil Deuce Publishing didn't want to go further with that, or the writer of this series, Dan Jolley, didn't know what to do with him. Who knows? They ended up replacing him here with the Sweeps, who are Scourge's minions, but I don't think any of these are Scourge. Either way, it doesn't matter because they are suddenly shot out of the sky and Team 3 discovers they were saved by the Dreadnoks. Torch, Buzzer, and Ripper here seem to have changed a lot and are part of what seems to be Earth's resistance force. The last time we saw them, they already had cybernetic enhancements, but now they seem to have gone through even more upgrades. Another thing I want to point out is the motorcycles they are riding are the Junkions. They even mention later that they found them in a trash heap, which is funny because as we know, their home world is a junk world. But them riding the Junkions could imply that they must have come to Earth at some point and maybe they were defeated by Shockwave. The Dreadnoks are surprised to see Team 3 here, seeing as though they mentioned they saw all of them die 15 years ago. Sometime later, the Dreadnoks receive the info dump from Team 3 on how and why they are here. Now in the past 20 years, we're going to learn a lot has changed on Earth, like who the Dreadnoks say is their boss and is the leader of what's left of Earth's resistance force. The Dreadnoks introduce Team 3 to Duke, who looks like he's been through hell. Like this man has lost 3 limbs, half his face is scarred, and it seems like he has to use a voice modulator of some sort to speak. All of this has majorly changed him. After Spirit and Barbecue explain to him that they've come from the past to retrieve the displaced transformer that's here, and that if they don't, Earth will go through a nuclear holocaust, Duke calls it all BS. He doesn't believe it because in this timeline, a global firestorm never happened. But what did happen was an invasion. He tells them August 17th, 2014, known as Hell Day, is when Shockwave conquered Earth and killed everyone. That the Transformer they're looking for, the Dreadnoks, and him are all that's left of Earth's resistance force. Duke essentially tells them he doesn't care what they've come to do. He offers them a choice, either stay and fight or leave. This just shows how far Duke has fallen. He has become consumed by all he's lost and this war to the point that it's blinding him to the fact that they might be able to prevent all of this from happening. Now, Spirit and Barbecue do wonder why the nuclear holocaust didn't happen. Mindbender explains what could have happened is all the teams were successful in bringing back the Transformers, but Shockwave must have gotten through Ultra Magnus' shield and defeated them. After that, he took control of Teletran 3, mastered the teleportation tech, and invaded Earth. As Team 3 is about to leave the base, Torch stops them and tells them that he's lost everything these past 20 years, and if there's a chance that this can all be prevented, he's willing to help. From here, we return to Cybertron for a brief moment. Honestly, I was originally going to skip this, but I decided not to because I want to show you all how ruthless Shockwave is as the leader of the Decepticons. As the Decepticons are attacking Ultra Magnus' shield, Cyclonus informs Shockwave that Magnus' field generator has depleted, and now he is forced to use his own energon to keep his shield going, but soon it will fall. Shockwave says, "You are a good and loyal servant, Cyclonus. Your life is assured for another cycle." This is the big difference between Megatron's rule and Shockwave's rule. Where Megatron's rule is emotionally fueled, Shockwave's is cold and calculating. He isn't emotional. He wants results, and if you're not able to give them to him, he won't hesitate to annihilate you, or at least experiment on you. Back in the future, Torch is leading Team 3 to the missing Transformer. He explains that this Transformer arrived 2 years ago and is their most fearsome fighter. That lately he's been fighting where it's thickest. When Spirit asks what's the bot's name, Torch replies, "We've never known. We just call him the Autobot." Now, none of you are prepared for which of the Autobots this is. Suddenly, they're all attacked by a huge swarm of Insecticons. Now, these are clones of the Insecticons, but they're still very dangerous. At that moment, Tomax and Zaymont reveal they've upgraded both their bodies with Cybertronian tech. Their arms connect, and they both unleash this massive blast that obliterates most of the Insecticons. Torch uses an EMP grenade and the group makes a run for it. They run into a nearby forest, and even there they're not safe because they run into a group of clones of Ravage. Out of nowhere though, some of the clones are blown away and the rest make a run for it. Now who did this? Well, the missing Transformer and the last Autobot standing, Ratchet. Now Ratchet being the last Autobot left is awesome, and here's why. Ratchet isn't known as a warrior amongst the Autobots. I mean, there was this one time in Marvel's Transformers, he beated the brakes off of Starscream, but for the most part, he's known as the healer, the chief medical officer of the Autobots. But in this alternate terrible future, he's changed and has been forced to become a deadly warrior. This whole thing is like an alternate version of Transformers Last Bot Standing that we've covered on the channel. If you haven't seen it, I'll put it in a pinned comment down below. I hope in the future we get another version of that that's similar to this. I would love it. Later, after hearing from Team 3 on why they are here, Ratchet, unlike Duke, does believe their story for the most part. However, he tells them that he isn't going anywhere until he saves a group of human slaves that are operating a factory Shockwave is using to strip Earth of every last resource. That currently there is another group of humans there waiting to be taken to the disintegrators. The team agrees to help him. Soon after, they reach the facility and ambush the bots guarding it here. The team successfully sets the humans free, and the mission really goes off without a hitch. But what's cool and yet crazy here is the glimpse we get of how much Ratchet has changed. During his fight with the guards here, we see he's in some sort of berserk state, to the point that while fighting the guard here, he nearly smashes the guard's body on top of Team 3. He's yelling at the guard, "You won't beat me, you won't," and ends up blasting him apart. What we can surmise here is either Ratchet has been scarred psychologically from losing those he cares about, to the point that in order to prevent that from ever happening again, he loses himself in battle. Or another possibility, he preps himself to go into a berserk state before every battle. Now after the mission, Ratchet tells Spirit he won't be leaving. The gamble that they might be able to stop Shockwave in the past, he considers to be too great a risk, when here in the future from his perspective, he can for sure save people and make a difference. He tries to walk away, but Barbecue is done asking. He hits Ratchet with the teleporter disc, and they're all sent back to the past. This is where it gets even more insane. Once they arrive in the past, Ratchet gets blasted from behind by Shockwave, who says, "Ratchet, I always hated you." Team 3 quickly realizes Shockwave got through Magnus' shield, took him out, and captured Perceptor. Now Tomax and Zaymont try to link up and do their mega combo, but Shockwave is like, "Nah son," and annihilates one of them right on the spot. He captures and secures Team 3. He reveals to Perceptor that he orchestrated basically this entire thing. He made sure the human researchers discovered and developed the teleportation tech, and that Cobra Commander found out about this. So when Cobra Commander was successful in creating his wormhole network on Earth, he would use that network to invade Earth. But since that isn't happening, what he's going to do now is take advantage of the chaos and block the last team from ever returning and let the nuclear holocaust happen. That way Earth will be served up on a silver platter for him. Dude, Shockwave is just so awesome, and this was just pure genius. Now if you're wondering what happened to the Joes and Cobra forces that were in Magnus' shield, Shockwave mentions that once his force field collapsed, an explosion occurred and they all escaped in the chaos. One thing I want to point out here, because it's just so weird, all the time displaced bots that returned and were also in the shield basically disappear from the rest of this story. I don't know if Dan Jolley forgot about them or he just didn't know how to intertwine them into the rest of the story, but they won't show up until the end. Anyways, we go to the Joe and Cobra survivors hiding underground. Some infighting happens until Storm Shadow interrupts. He reports while they were all escaping, he stayed and saw Shockwave lock down Teletran 3 and saw the exact sequence he used to do it. It's crazy he's saying all this normally while his back is just heavily scarred, most likely from a blaster shot. Even CoverGirl is shocked at the sight of this and is like, dude, you're back. Beachhead proposes sending a couple of them through the conduit shaft they came down from so they can sneak to Teletran 3 and reverse the lockdown. However, to avoid detection, they can't have any gear or any metal on or within them. The only two who end up meeting that criteria are Lady J and Roadblock. Minutes later, they successfully make their way up the conduit shaft to the top of the tower where Teletran 3 is. Now, what happens next, some of you might have mixed feelings on, because it's kind of ridiculous and funny. Roadblock creates a distraction so Lady J can reach Teletran. He runs up one of the Decepticons here, and I've never seen this before, but for some reason this bot has a blaster that looks like a pistol. Roadblock climbs up the Decepticon, grabs its blaster, fires it, which sends him flying across the room. Once he's on his feet, he's able to lift his blaster and just start shooting up everywhere, and it starts hitting some Decepticons. Meanwhile, Lady J makes it to Teletran 3, and for some reason Starscream tries to warn Shockwave, but it's too late. Lady J successfully unlocks Teletran 3, and a huge flash of light occurs. The final team is able to return, and the bots they return with is the Dinobot son. The Decepticons are shocked and quickly realize they are Grimlock beats the brakes off of Shockwave, sends him flying out of the tower. A quick thing to mention here, this is basically the origin of the Dinobots in this universe, because Grimlock says Teletran 3 reformatted him and the other Dinobots into these dino forms. So more than likely the Dinobots had standard Autobot forms, but when they were sent back to prehistoric times, they took the forms of the dinosaurs. These might be the most powerful version of the Dinobots though, because they are cutting a swath through all of the Decepticon forces here. It's incredible. They are absolutely demolishing them. The Decepticons end up falling back, and the Dinobots are victorious. The next day, Optimus thanks Cobra and the Joes for all they did. He asks what he can do to repay the debt, and the Joes just ask him to eliminate any teleportation gates between Cybertron and Earth. Optimus assures them that he will and tells them they have to make sure they destroy all traces of the teleportation tech on Earth. Now, as they all are about to head into the portal and return to Earth, the Baroness asks Cobra Commander, "What about your pet Starscream?" Cobra Commander answers he escaped the destruction when the Dinobots appeared. The Baroness then points out that he seems so calm about losing such an ace in the hole. Cobra Commander only says they can keep him. Why he's so calm about losing his own personal transformer is going to get answered in a bit, because from here we go to Shockwave undergoing repairs. Starscream is brought before him, and he begs for his life, saying that he was forced to do the humans' bidding and wants to return to the Decepticons. After a moment of thought, Shockwave accepts him back into the ranks. At that moment though, a recording of Cobra Commander starts to play out of Starscream's frame. He says, "I imagine you've returned to your Cybertronian compatriots. Allow me to address your superior. Starscream has been an unending thorn in my side. He would have killed me if he had the chance, and at this point, he's become worthless. But it's nothing 45 pounds of plastic explosive I house in his frame can't fix." Suddenly, a huge explosion occurs. The top of Shockwave's tower is blown to bits. Finally, Cobra Commander gets his moment in this series. Now we go to 3 months later. Something very interesting happens. Dr. Mindbender in a maximum security prison receives some visitors. They say they're from the NSA and are here to transfer him. Later, he ends up in some Arctic secret compound somewhere. Mindbender suspects that they aren't really NSA, but he has no choice when they tell him to take this elevator to level 17. Once he reaches it, he comes across these dead bodies and begins to panic. He then is shocked at the sight of beings he's never seen before, Pythona and Nemesis Enforcer. Pythona says, "With your assistance, Doctor, we shall open the dimensional doorways wide, so that both Earth and Cybertron will crumble before the combined power of Unicron and the kingdom of Cobra Law." that's the end of the video and the end of the second series of G.I. Joe versus the Transformers 2. I really enjoyed this series, really especially too here at the end. It was amazing, these last 2 issues. If you want to see the third series, make sure you smash that like button, comment down below, and subscribe if you want it as soon as it drops. We'll get into who Cobra is in that series. Other than that, have an awesome day, and remember, Yo Joe, transform and go beyond. See you later, Beyonders.